sex and drugs. This was followed by sordid allegations from another man. Reverend Haggard and his wife Gail were banished from the church and fled the state of Colorado in disgrace. But amazingly, Gail, his wife, didn't walk away from her husband. So please welcome, I think, the courageous author of Why I Stayed, Gail Haggard. I think, Mrs. Haggard, of course, that many people are wondering why you stayed. But let's go back a little bit, because you had been married for 28 years. You had 5 children. I assume you thought you were happy.
I was very happy at that time. In fact, I thought that was about the happiest season of my life, right before the crisis.
Okay, then comes the crisis. In 2006, he admitted secret life, homosexual affair, drugs, nothing you knew anything about. What was your reaction?
Well, first of all, I was shocked. I was heartbroken. But I also knew that he was more than all of this. So I was willing to go through what it took to try to understand the truth and how my husband got to that place.
But that's the important thing. When you say he was more than all of this, that was a lot to be a part of. I mean, I remember interviewing your husband a few years ago, and this was a very pious man who was against homosexuality. I mean, I remember him in that interview, and very charismatic. Now you find out that he has done all of these things, but you don't think he was gay. So where did all this come from? Where did these tendencies come from?
Well, we had a very normal, healthy, vibrant sex life between the two of us. And so that's why I can say I do believe that my husband is a heterosexual, but I think our sexuality is complex. I don't think we should rush to categorize anyone, because I think we can be anywhere along the
Wait, do you think he's bisexual?
I think any of us can act out on our sexuality in any number of ways, depending on how our sexuality is conditioned through our lives, which can be through physical aspects of our lives, experiences, any number of things. I think the pop psychology of the day has a lot of people rushing to categorize
people. If you feel that, does that mean that if he had a relationship with a man now, you'd say, well, we can all, there are many sides to us?
No, I want my husband to be faithful to me. And I don't want him to pursue this, but these are choices that he made himself. I was able to make the choice that I made based on what he told me, and that was that he felt as though he was trapped in his sin. That's our language, but something that he did not want to be a part of his life. And to stay with me, he wanted to fight for our marriage, and because he made those choices, I could make the choice as well.
So you didn't see it as, early on when he revealed these things to you, that he did have these homosexual urges, as you say, that wasn't in any way a red flag to you, like, okay, maybe he is trapped and I don't want to keep him in this state if indeed he is?
Well, I think if those urges were a bigger part of his life, but instead they were based in trauma, and that's not true of every person who would identify themselves as being homosexual, but this was my husband's story. And so what he was treated for was his childhood trauma. And as a result of that, it caused those compulsions, those unwanted, intrusive thoughts to stop in his life, and enabled him to go through a process of really walking away from that.
How many men are we talking about? How many men were there? The book says 2. Is that 2 or more?
With my husband? Yeah. I don't go into any details about my husband's sexuality. I think he's been scrutinized enough for every wrong he's done. I don't know that any of us want to be scrutinized like that.
But I'm curious, why you decided to write this book? Because you sort of put you and your husband back into the spotlight. I would think that y'all would not want to. Yeah, I'm just, pardon me, I'm just curious.
Well, I think because there was so much mischaracterization of my husband, misrepresentation, and people formed judgments on information that was out there that wasn't even true, and I felt as though I needed to give the story from my perspective. It really is an amazing story, a human story, and I felt as though it would bring hope to some people.
Well, you know, infidelity that's hard enough to get over, and then with him giving these revelations of these relationships with men, why did you stay? He told you you could divorce me, and you decided to stick it out. Why?
When he told me, he said, Gail, you should divorce me, because I feel as though I'm so toxic, I'm just hurting you more. And I told him, I will not divorce you. And the reason for that is because I was claiming what was mine. This was my husband. This was my marriage, and I thought it was worth fighting for.
You have 5 kids to explain it to, too. I'm sorry.
I just, if one of your kids came to you or a relative and said they were gay, what would your response be? Say, I understand that you're gay and I understand where it comes from or what happened to you. How would you see it, I guess I'm asking?
I think I would be very understanding that they are the right way
Well, I
they are
won't
for a
divorce
reason.
you now,
And I would want to pursue understanding and compassion.
I won't divorce
And I
you
think that's not a sin.
I won't divorce you.
I believe that a sin is anything that is less than God's design for us. And the scriptures say that God's ways are higher than our ways. But it also says that Jesus understands our human condition.
Right.
Speaking of